One of the things that can be really confusing when it comes to figuring out how to start recovering from agoraphobia is figuring out how to start. The thing is that we know we need to do exposure therapy, we know we need to start getting out there and doing the things that scare us, but it's like, how do you actually start doing that? How do you start? So in this video, I'm going to be sharing a list of ways in which you can get started in your agoraphobia recovery. And just a quick note to say that when I talk about agoraphobia recovery, I want to sort of specify that I think it's a journey and I think there are stages, and I don't think that anxiety in general terms is something that you can heal or recover from, but I definitely think that the limitations that come with agoraphobia is something that you can recover from. So that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. Just needed to add that little disclaimer, that little snippet there. The first tip I have when it comes to how to start is to get clear on what your future looks like. And obviously this seems like a little bit of a jump forwards from like, how do I start, to thinking about my future. But I really think that this is so important, because what we do is we tend to focus on like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? And in focusing on the how, we forget to move at all. I think what we need to start really focusing on is not the how, but the what. And when we focus on the what, that's when we start moving towards it without even realizing that we're doing that. So it's really important to get clear on the things that you want for yourself rather than the things that you need to do to get there. Taking some time to sit down, get your journal out, get a diary out, whatever writing utensil you want to use, iPad, pen, whatever, sit there and start writing a list of the things you want for yourself in the future, the way you want your future to look, the things you want to do, the places you want to go, the person you want to be, the way you want to feel. I've spoken about this in more detail in a past video that I will link. This may be an exercise that is a little bit tricky to begin with, because it's not something you might be used to doing. Instead, you might be used to catastrophizing and thinking of the worst case scenario and not really considering how things might look if they turned out. So you may need to practice this a bit, but start focusing on the things that you want for yourself and try not to get bogged down by, but how am I going to get there? Just think about what your future is going to look like and how that's going to make you feel to be there. And this is going to be the thing that's going to propel you to make those first initial movements. The next step in how to start is to acknowledge that this future and this vision you want for yourself is going to include fear and panic, and really get comfortable with the idea that you are going to be uncomfortable. You're going to panic, you're going to feel afraid, you're going to feel fear, and that's just a part of life in general. And I can tell you that avoiding discomfort or trying to avoid discomfort actually feels more uncomfortable than just feeling the discomfort in the first place. This is something that still trips me up and a lesson that I still have to learn, and I think probably is a lesson that we're all going to need to learn continuously as we go through life. Avoiding discomfort feels more uncomfortable than feeling the discomfort in the first place. So really just acknowledge that that vision that you want for yourself, the things that you want for yourself in the future, you're going to have to feel panic and fear in order to get there. But it's going to be a different panic and fear to the panic and fear of trying to avoid panic and fear, if that makes sense. You really just need to acknowledge that that is going to happen, that you are going to feel not very good for a lot of it, but you're also going to feel really good for a lot of it too. And that both states of being are necessary parts of the journey. The next tip I have in how to start is to record it in some way or other. I've said this probably quite a few times before, but recording myself, doing my initial exposures was honestly something that helped me so much that I didn't expect to help so much. But there's kind of a key point that I want to make, and that it's if you are going to record yourself doing exposures, or if you are going to, in some way record the journey, whether it's writing about it or, just taking a picture when you're out and then putting it on Instagram or putting it on a blog or something like that, I would do it in a way that allows you to be not anonymous, but not in a way that you are sharing it with your immediate circle of friends and family. And I know this sounds weird, but the reason for this is that there can be some added pressure that comes from close family and friends when you are dealing with agoraphobia. And it's normal and it's natural and it's okay that there is that pressure, because they want the best for you, and they want you to feel better and they want you to feel good. But kind of sharing your journey with them in a really intimate way is sometimes tricky, because it does add that extra pressure, and then they sort of want to get involved, but they don't know maybe the best way to get involved, and they might, even though they're well-meaning, they might kind of hinder things a little bit. So I found that what was really helpful for me was sharing my journey online, and I was like kind of anonymous in a way, like I was showing my face and using my name and stuff, so I wasn't super anonymous, but I wasn't sharing that with like immediate friends and family, or extended friends and family. I was just putting it out there on the internet and not kind of sharing it on like my personal Facebook or my personal Instagram or whatever. If you can start recording your journey, recording your initial steps out of the house, and recording as you get further and further along, I think it's really important to in some way acknowledge the journey that you're going on, because this is how you are going to really understand that it is a journey, and that it's not something that you're just going to fix tomorrow, but that the step you take tomorrow is going to help the step that you take the day after. My next tip in how to start is to not be so measured about it. I know that some people do exposure therapy and they are really measured about it. For example, they'll say, day 1, I'm going to go here. Day 2, I'm going to go here. Day 3, I'm going to go there. Or they write down a list of places or goals that they, like milestones that they want to meet, and they will meet those in order. For me, I didn't do things in that measured way. I found that making everything an exposure was a much more helpful way for me to go about it. I don't know if that was just me personally. Maybe the planning method doesn't work for me because I'm not someone who likes to really plan very much. But I found that making everything an exposure, and by that I mean, maybe taking myself for a walk and then deciding on the way home to take a different route than I usually do. I would be driving to the shops, and then at the last minute I would go, you know what, I'm going to drive to a different set of shops that I wasn't intending on driving to. Making everything an exposure in that way kind of allowed for more fluidity and allowed me to kind of open myself up to what life is actually like. Because what happens is you can't titrate life. You can't plan for life as much as we would like to. Unexpected things are going to happen. And so if you are planning your exposure session, if you are planning your exposure sessions down to the last detail and being really measured about how you get out of the house, this form of controlling your exposure might end up being another way of trying to control and titrate your discomfort and your anxiety, which ultimately is going to make things harder. You can do this for a while. I got by for quite a while by trying to control how much exposure I put myself through. But eventually unexpected things are going to happen and you're going to have to deal with that. So I would recommend against doing measured and planned exposures. And I would say just get out there and change your mind while you're out there. Take yourself out for a walk or whatever your, agoraphobia dictates, whether it's getting out of the house in general or long distances or getting on the motorway or whatever it is for you. Be creative about that. Don't sit at home and plan exactly what you're going to do and then go out and do exactly that. Another tip I have for how to get started with recovery from agoraphobia is to not subscribe to the idea that there is, too much too soon. A lot of people I've spoken to over the years have said, like, part of me just wants to go out and do something massive. Like, I just want to go and get on a train and take myself, 3 hours away, or I just want to go and do something big. But I'm scared that if I do that, it's going to be so overwhelming and so traumatic that it's going to set me backwards. I completely understand the fear of that, but I'm not 100% certain that I personally subscribe to that notion. I think this is something that we just tell ourselves as a protective mechanism. And again, that's okay. That's normal. That's a normal kind of human response. We want to sort of save ourselves from going through something traumatic if we can. And so we imagine that if we bite off more than we think we can chew, that it's going to be really traumatic. So we want to avoid doing that. But in my experience and from what I've seen, that's not something that really happens, because ultimately we are going to take things slowly. Even if we're doing something massive, we're still going to take things slowly, because there is so much fear there, there is so much anxiety there is so much panic there. We're always going to do as much as we can do. And we're also going to surprise ourselves when we try and do things that are, beyond what we think we're capable of. The thing is that everything is going to feel like too much too soon when it comes to panic and agoraphobia. Everything is going to feel overwhelming. Everything is going to feel like it's, going to cause this extreme reaction, because that's just the nature of panic, anxiety, and agoraphobia. You wouldn't be agoraphobic if things didn't already feel that way. So you are going to take it at a pace that is, probably slower than what you are capable of just by default, because it's a hard thing to do to get out and do exposure sessions. It's a difficult thing to do and it feels really uncomfortable. I mean, try not to have that mindset of like, I can't do that because that's going to be too much. Because again, everything's going to feel like too much. I really hope you guys didn't just hear my belly rumbling. I haven't had breakfast yet. Everything's going to feel like too much too soon, and you are going to do things at an appropriate pace, probably more towards the slower end of the scale. Basically what I'm trying to say is that I think us telling ourselves that is more of a delaying tactic rather than anything else. It's not so much a reality, it's just a way, another creative way in which we hold ourselves back from doing the things that we probably are capable of, but we just really don't want to go through the panic that's going to accompany that big thing that we're so afraid of. You will be able to do all of the things that you think you can't do. You will always surprise yourself, and there will be panic and there will be fear and there will be discomfort, but you will also come out of it feeling accomplished and feeling proud of yourself. The last part of how to start in your agoraphobia recovery, if you have already done all the things in this video, I want you to comment what you are going to do for your exposure, what your next step is going to be. I know that you know what it is that you need to do, and I know that you are focusing on how to get started as a way of feeling more capable of doing that. But I want you to know that you are so capable of putting yourself through exposure. You are so capable of the first parts of agoraphobia recovery. The hardest part is just making that first movement, taking that first action, whatever that's going to be for you. So comment what that first action is going to be for you, and I promise you there will be someone reading those comments who is endlessly supportive of your next steps and who is going to be your cheerleader as well. There is a whole community of people behind you who want you to succeed and who are going to help you get there. I wish you the very, very best, and I can't wait to see how you start moving through your fear and make your way to the things that you really want for your life. Take care.